Welcome to the Mastery Club Online Adventure Introductory Webinar. The purpose of this webinar is to give you a bit of an idea of what the course is about so that you can decide if it's right for you. So, in a nutshell, it is for anyone who would like to realize more of their potential, achieve more of their goals, and would perhaps appreciate some support, or some accountability, some inspiration, some motivation. So, what you'll find in this course are 10 clear principles and a set of strategies that will assist you. And if you take on the extra accountability of email feedback or coaching, you'll be even more confident of ticking off those goals. Now, that is a very brief explanation for those of you who like to get the information up front and like to make up your minds quickly. For those of you who would like a little more detail, more information, let me take you on a journey. I have a bit of a slideshow to share with you, so excuse me while I just get that started. So, the Mastery Club program was originally a novel that I wrote for children called The Mastery Club. You can see here the original cover and the updated cover. The Mastery Club is narrated by a 12-year-old girl called Natalie who loves the Harry Potter books. Natalie feels that her own life is very ordinary, so she escapes into stories of fantasy and magic. Into Natalie's life comes Nina, this green-haired young girl who has had a different sort of upbringing to the average child. She effectively tells Natalie to put away her wand and work with this and this, her head and her heart. Nina wants to form a mastery club, a kind of support group for visionary young people that will assist them in achieving their goals and dreams. The book was received with great enthusiasm, and I was invited to give talks about it here and there, which culminated in a program that I taught for several years in schools and to various private groups. The Master Club program was taught in Australia and in several countries overseas, and now this online program enables people anywhere in the world to do the course. And the course addresses the concept known as manifestation or goal setting, law of attraction, and more. It covers various aspects of that process through 10 lessons. Before I outline them, I'd like to take you further back in time to the Warsaw Ghetto, where my mother lived from the age of 3 months following the outbreak of World War II. When she was 3 years old, my grandmother got wind of the concentration camps and children being taken from their parents. She managed to get false papers for herself and my mother, and they escaped the ghetto. They spent the rest of the war on the run and in hiding. As you can imagine, that was a pretty traumatic beginning to life. My mother's formative years were spent in fear, and after the war, my grandmother wrote these two books. As my mother grew up, she had lots of questions about life and justice and how to secure oneself against danger. She began to read very widely, looking for answers, and accrued quite a library of books. When I was a teenager, I began to read some of her books, in which the authors share case studies of many people who were facing health, relationship, or financial problems. These people declared certain statements either aloud or silently or in writing, and their circumstances were transformed. Some of the books. I was hooked. I was fascinated by the power of the word. I had been writing stories since I was about 7 years old. I loved inventing characters and situations. I loved the challenge of seeing if I could create a world so compelling that it becomes more real for the reader than the world they're physically in. Because of this love, I found myself in a creative writing club when I was about 11, and we were asked to set to we were set a writing exercise, sorry, that woke me up to the energy of language. We were asked to write a list of words we liked and words we didn't like. I found that I liked words like spirit, earth, friendship, river, love, adventure, banana, and didn't like words like hate, despair, can't, evil, fear, war. It seemed to me that some words were uplifting and others had a heavy energy. So that innocent exercise planted a seed in my mind that our words have the power to influence our feelings and our state of mind. Then as a teenager, I read my mother's books and became even more fascinated by the power of the word, that we can use language to create imaginary worlds to entertain people or to deliberately create the world we're living in, our reality. The Mastery Club is an imaginary story about deliberately creating our world, our reality. It's common sense that a good attitude is very important, and there are many famous sayings about how courage and persistence overcome all. But some of the stories I read about people who were able to transform their circumstances seemed quite magical. For example, a woman whose wrist was badly damaged, and she was told by her doctor that she would never regain full flexibility, and her wrist would always be a bit achy, and she should get used to that idea. She didn't like that idea, so she chose her own. She went home and began to sing a song of gratitude for the perfect healing of her wrist. 12 weeks later, after singing this song every day, when the cast came off, her wrist was perfectly healed. It was flexible, there was no pain. The doctor's response was that this was not medically possible. To me, it was magic. Another woman whose body was riddled with arthritis heard the idea that there is intelligence in every cell of our body, not just the brain. She began to address her body daily and command it to heal. 12 months later, she was free of arthritis. To me, that was magic. An Indian gentleman wanted to move to America but didn't have the funds. One of the authors, Joseph Murphy, told him that he was focused on the obstacles, on the reasons that he couldn't. Instead, the Indian should focus on being in America. Each evening, spend a few minutes relaxing and visualizing himself in America. Soon after an American came to India, Soon after that, an American came to India and hired him as a tour guide. They got along so well that when the American was ready to return home, he asked the Indian to return with him and work for him as his chauffeur, and even paid his way, offering also to pay for his passport and visa. To me, that was more magic. But what, after all, is magic? If we look at an aeroplane or remote control or any of the countless Western inventions that we are surrounded with today, each and every one of them is sheer magic to someone from a simpler society. When we don't understand or appreciate the laws behind something, we call it magic. But laws there are. And I believe we are in a new age that has already been called the age of imagination, in which our mastery of such laws will permit us to realize some of our wildest dreams. Think about 3D printing. Scientists muse that we are only using a fraction of our mental and physical potential. What if our human blueprint is to have the brilliance of Einstein or the physical stamina and flexibility of an Olympic gymnast? What if it is at least to create lives we love living? What if there are simple principles behind living a masterful life? What if there are simple strategies anyone can use to enhance their life and realize their dreams? And what if we can use those same laws to create lives of struggle and difficulty? We all experiencing challenging times. I have certainly been through many difficult periods, as I'm sure you have too. The key to creating magical change is mastery. Personal mastery is the ability to respond to the challenges in our lives creatively and consciously. It's the ability to choose what we would like to experience rather than just reacting to the things that are happening around us. The subtitle of the Mastery Club is See the Invisible, Hear the Silent, Do the Impossible. And that is what we are being asked to do if we wish to transform our circumstances. We are being asked to take our attention away from the appearance, whether it's a lack of money or ill health or relationship breakdown, and hold a vision of how we would like our circumstances to be. It is very easy to be seduced by appearances. If not much money in our bank account, we can think of ourselves as poor. If our children are fighting, we can think of ourselves as bad parents. If we're in pain, we can easily worry that it's cancer. In fact, that Nina character has a sign in her bedroom that says, Master yourself and you can master anything. She introduces the Mastery Club members to various ideas and laws and principles that stretch their minds and challenge them in wonderful ways. So let's look at these 10 lessons. The first one is called We Are the Sculptors. And this is about setting the right mental frame for this sort of work. We're the sculptors because our thoughts determine our feelings, which determine our actions, which determine our results. This first one is a very inspiring session with lots of stories that will get you thinking. The second one is when we set a goal of our own. It has to be something that really matters to you, and we take you through the steps of setting and refining that goal with reference to a university study that endorses the concept of a mastery club. You can see here a photo of two boys I worked with in the Philippines. The third lesson introduces the concept of visualization, how and why it relates to the goal achievement process. We'll touch on the history and science behind visualization, and you'll be guided through a deeply relaxing experience that you can come back to over and over for the rest of the course. This extraordinary photo you're looking at, or set of photos, is of John Gabriel, author of the Gabriel Method, and we'll explain what he did in the course. The fourth lesson invites you to have a go at making a treasure map, also known as a vision board. Scrapbooking is a popular way of organizing our past experiences. Treasure mapping is a technique for organizing future experiences. Some people have been able to create world trips, new cars, and all sorts of other goodies by doing some cutting and pasting. The fifth lesson is where the rubber hits the road. This is when we begin to look at universal laws. The next three lessons are the real power of the program. This one has the odd name first force, second force, third force, and it addresses the dynamic that most people encounter eventually when they set a goal. Everything that gets in the way of it. Ironically, it's not so much the goal that matters as the journey. As Ralph Marston says, the value of an ambitious goal is not measured by what it will bring to you. The worth of a goal is measured by what it will make of you in the process of following and attaining it. This Mastery Club lesson is about how one's character is built in the process of attaining a goal. It's about the price that needs to be paid, developing resilience, and recognizing that all the struggles we experience are not mistakes. They are designed into life so that we will grow. The sixth lesson is the law of polarity. It's a fundamental principle of this universe that every experience is two-sided. No experience is only good or only bad. When we have an appreciation of this law, we can travel through life in a much more centered fashion. The seventh law is the law of resonance and vibration. Everything in the universe is in a state of vibration, including us. Everything makes its own note. What determines ours? This session is about our emotional selves and how we need to be in the right frequency to manifest our dreams. We talk about the various strategies that we can implement to achieve that outcome. The eighth session unpacks the idea of growth because we have to become a new person in the process of achieving our goals, especially the big, confronting, inspiring ones. The ninth lesson is a reminder that these lessons are not just ideas. We need to apply them. It's all very well to be an expert on something, but what really matters is being able to generate results in your life, which calls for new habits and a new identity. In this lesson, we learn from other leaders, other achievers. My own life was transformed in the aftermath of writing the Mastery Club. Despite being unknown and self-publishing, the Mastery Club sold over 12,000 copies, making it a bestseller in Australia's small market. It won an international award, attracted wonderful reviews, endorsements, and feedback, and is used in classrooms around Australia. The foreword was volunteered by Dr. DeMartini, a philosopher, international behavioral specialist, and consultant at government levels. A mentor materialized early in the publishing process who offered financial backing, time, and support. I was offered a free ticket to Paraguay to attend a youth leadership conference on the strength of the book. I enjoyed a free cruise as a speaker. The Mastery Club was published in China and sold over 2,000 copies in the first 3 months. The Mastery Club facilitators presented programs in schools and healing centres here and in Scotland, England, America, South Africa, and Bali. People started up their own mastery clubs. There was film interest, and I went on to publish another 5 books, 2 children's picture books about inspiring leaders, 2 more novels for youth, one that teaches financial literacy through story, and one that explores mindset in the wake of a scary illness diagnosis, and a novel for women about relationships and the hero's journey. The 10th lesson of the course is for pulling it all together and clarifying a few distinctions. Sometimes it looks like we aren't going to achieve our goal. Perhaps we need to step back from it a little or loosen our grip to let things flow. Perhaps we didn't set an appropriate time frame or our expectations are off. You could say that I wrote the Mastery Club to give young people a profound sense of their own power as the thinkers and decision makers in their lives, so that they take responsibility for their lives and create the lives of their dreams. To begin with, I wanted to talk to my children about the importance of their attitude and to encourage them to believe in themselves and to appreciate the great power of their thinking to influence the direction of their lives. I knew they would have limited patience for the sorts of books I like to read on these topics, so I put all the ideas I wanted to share into a novel. From that simple desire grew a vision to inspire and empower millions of young people to create lives they love living. I believe that when we love what we're doing, we radiate enthusiasm, we're relaxed, we're creative and energized. We're much more likely to want to give to others because a full cup overflows.
Hi, I'm Ben. I've read this brilliant book here 6 times already. I found the characters very easy to relate to and sometimes quite funny. I've also been to a couple of Liliane's mastery workshops, which I really enjoyed. My family and I really believe in the Mastery Club's methods of achieving goals, which I've used with amazing results. So, do yourself a favour and read this inspiring book. It really is magic.
That young boy would be a teenager by now, or a young man. Now let's hear from a woman, a businesswoman.
Hello, I'm Nuala Mumby. In February 2003, I set an extraordinary goal. I distribute health products, and my goal was to achieve the top rank in the company, Diamond Ambassador. It would represent a growth of about 5 times my current sales volume. I'd been a distributor for a few years and I had a medium-sized business. I didn't really know how I'd do it, but I really wanted to achieve Diamond. March went by, as did April and May, and by the time I got to June, I knew I needed to do something special. I thought about the moment when I'd be up on stage receiving my Diamond Ambassador trophy at the annual convention, and I realised I was going to need something to wear. It's funny how the brain works. Soon after realising that, I was walking along the street and I passed a shop which had a beautiful blue evening dress in the window. And this little voice in my head said, if you're going to really do it, then you're going to need a dress. So I bought the address for an event that was 9 months away for me to be awarded for something I hadn't done yet. The dress hung in the cupboard at home for about 2 weeks until one Saturday afternoon I realised that I needed to take a photo. I pretended it was the gala night where I would get my trophy. I put on my makeup, I did my hair, and I put on some glitzy jewellery. I went round to my friend's house for a photo session and I borrowed their big Diamond Ambassador trophy and they took the photos and their kids cheered. They've got quite a mantelpiece of trophies and Ginny handed me another trophy to hold as well, so I'd have something in each hand. It was lots of fun. I went home, framed the photo and put it on the wall of my office where it reminded me every day of my outrageous goal. One of the principles of successful creation is to make a powerful commitment, to close the back doors. And having the goal in my office and on the screensaver of my computer meant that everyone who visited me became aware of it. I was going to be very embarrassed if I didn't achieve the goal, and I clearly needed to take some more action to make sure I achieved the results. I wrote lots of affirmations and I also made an affirmation tape which I played continuously all night for several months, with positive statements about my growing business and about my character. For the next 6 months, I worked really hard. I was very, very focused and there were lots of ups and downs. But the picture on the wall had already convinced my subconscious that it was a fait accompli. 24th of December 2003 was the date that I had set to achieve Diamond. And by December the 12th, 2003, I had already done it. My sales turnover had actually increased 5-fold in 6 months. And at the next company convention in March 2004, I was awarded not only the big trophy for becoming Diamond Ambassador, but also the other trophy that I'd picked up just for fun. And that was Most Improved Distributor of the Year. So it's pretty extraordinary what you can do when you create a vision of your success and you have it in front of you all the time and take consistent action towards it. And that's my story.
Amazing stories. So now you, you may have professional goals or personal goals. There's something that matters to you that you want to achieve, and you would appreciate some support in doing so. Perhaps someone to challenge you when you're not stepping up to the mark. That's the purpose of this course, and my book, The Coaching Options. I hope you'll be inspired to sign up. The price of the online course is so inexpensive for what it includes that anyone can afford it. And the coaching is equally reasonable. That said, if you're up against it at the moment and you'd appreciate a payment plan, just email us to make that request. I look forward to meeting you, hearing from you, and having you in the course. Thank you.